All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies, gents, boys, and girls. Welcome to Fireside Chats with Coach P. I'm obviously your host, Coach P. Before we introduce our guest of episode one, I just want to tell you a bit about what Fireside Chats is. You're probably wondering what the heck this is. This is just a simple little conversation that we're having inviting guests, just talk about their experience through basketball, where basketball has taken them in the world, the people they've met, the experiences that they've experienced. I know that you can't really do that in English class, so sorry, English teacher from high school. But just to give you, our audience, the insight, especially young girls and boys who are trying to navigate through, a global pandemic, who are trying to go from, high school into post-secondary, whether at the university or college level, what it really takes, but just to hear of the journeys of our guests. And again, where basketball's taken them. I know for me personally, basketball's taken me around the world. I've traveled. I've met some amazing people. Some people I call and consider lifelong friends, and people who we all worked hard. We all grinded to where we got to in life. So without any further ado, I am going to introduce our first guest, a good friend, daughter of a legendary coach as well too. But I think she has probably the best job in the world. Danielle Langford, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me, Paul.
Thanks for doing this. I know that you guys played last night, and I'm sure you're tired, so we won't keep you too long. Danny, for our guests, for our audience, for those who are tuning in from wherever they are, I know this is going to be on our Instagram page. Tell us a bit about yourself. And like I said, you got the best job in the world, so maybe lend some credence to that, into what that is.
So my name's Danielle Langford, and I think the job you're referring to is the fact that I'm manager of player rehabilitation with the Golden State Warriors. And I'm pretty fresh into that, actually. I've only been working with them for 3 months now. So I would say my job at the moment actually is to be learning and absorbing as much as I can from a wonderful group and a wonderful team of multidisciplinary people, from coaches to our training staff to our performance staff. So that's my job at the moment, is to be learning from a great group of people to see how I can best fit into the team to help out.
That's amazing. And I know a lot of my athletes are huge Golden State fans, so you just got me some street cred. They're like, Coach, you're so cool. You work with the Golden State Warriors. Before we talk about how you even got involved with the Warriors, let's maybe walk it back and just talk about like where you're from and where you hooped at, where you went to school. Just to give an idea to our audience of a bit about you.
Yeah, I guess most people would say I was born, and very shortly after that, I had a basketball in my hand. My dad, Bruce Langford, is a coach in BC. And so I grew up in a gym. A gym feels very much like home to me. And so that's why this opportunity with the Warriors has been so awesome, because it's taking two pieces of my career as well as who I was growing up and putting them together. I played basketball at Heritage Park Secondary School, and I played for my dad. I played for Mike McNeil there as well. Mike Miller, Frank Chan. We had a great group of coaches and a great culture and atmosphere to be growing up playing basketball. I got to have mentors like Teresa Kleindienst, who is now Teresa Gabriel. Kim Smith is played as well. She's a couple years younger than me. Julia Wilson, Katia Fuse. There's a lot of names that came out of the high school that I went to. And that's just what you did day to day. We would go in for hours on Sundays and we would play basketball, and then we play volleyball, and we play California kickball, and then we'd circle back to basketball again. So we'd be in the gym for like 6 to 8 hours on a Sunday. And that's just what I knew growing up.
Right. Yeah.
It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Then from there, I went to SFU and I played at SFU for 5 years. I started playing for Allison McNeil in my first year. And then in my second year, my dad actually came and ended up coaching, which is kind of a funny story. He said he didn't want to apply because he didn't want to cramp my style. And I said he had to apply because that was kind of quality assurance as to what coach we would get. If he didn't apply, then who knows kind of what would happen. But if he applied, and obviously he was very successful in high school, that at least they had to have somebody above that. So I actually went and took his application and put it in the application box for him with 1 hour left. So that was an interesting chat that we had that was kind of a role reversal where I had to kind of say to him, no, you need to apply. So
right. And that's awesome.
Yeah. So from there, then I went to Australia. Pardon?
I would say how long ago was that? It's probably, your dad's been around for, it was like 40 years.
That was 2000. That was my second year. So 2001.
Oh, okay. You've been coaching for 40 years, but 2001. And they say you went to Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then from there, once I was done playing at SFU, a lot of people just wanted me to become a coach and follow in my dad's footsteps and whatnot. And I was assistant coaching at the time. And I always knew since I was young that I wanted to become a physiotherapist though. And so I ended up going to Australia for physio school. And kind of got out of my comfort zone a little bit because Burnaby Mountain is not that far from Abbotsford where I grew up. And I ended up going to physio school there. The story behind that is I went to UBC and looked at and talked to them about how that whole application process went, and found out that I might not get an interview because they basically just ranked your GPA and didn't really kind of interview or talk to you at all. And so I came back to my dad's office crying, saying, I'm not going to be a physio. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, you are. He's like, just not here apparently. And so we sat down and looked through all different schools and everything. And we found Curtin University, which was in Perth, Australia. And it sounded perfect like me. They had psychology involved, biology, physiology, anatomy. They had all the pieces that I had. And I ended up applying a week later, found out that I got in 2 weeks after that and left for Australia 2 months after that.
Pretty fast, right?
It was a quick turnaround for sure.
That's awesome. And I mean, other than Australia having like some of the world's deadliest creatures and animals, how was living in Australia?
Australia was great. It was the first time, growing up, everyone has their identity, and basketball was a huge part of my identity. Being a coach's daughter was a huge part of my identity and a player. And so going to Australia by myself, where nobody even knew anything about me and basketball, I think was a good process to go through. It helps you kind of discover a bit more who you are. It challenges you for sure. Yeah. I played a little bit of basketball there, but nothing like my focus was school when I was there for sure. So I think it's always great for people to kind of get out of their comfort zone and helps you grow as a person when people don't just assume kind of who you are, and you can have a chance to be somebody else for a little bit.
Yeah, and have your personality shine through as well too, right? Well, I mean, I got to ask, what was it like playing for a legendary coach like your dad?
I think growing up, you don't actually really realize, like, they're just your dad. And so it's just the process really. So I think when I was younger, you just go about the process, and a big process for my dad, and anybody that has played for my dad knows about Shibumi. And that's kind of an acronym that we used. And it's about self-actualization. It stands for success, hustle, intensity, best you can be, or building character, unity and understanding, motivation, and then integrity. The first one was intensity. Yeah. So the term evolved, and we were very much a part of that. And that's what we kind of lived and breathed. And so I don't think when you're younger, you actually realize that it's anything special, to be honest. It's not till later. And it's not actually till more recently, I would even say in the last maybe 2 years, 3 years, as I've gone through different interviews and talked to different people. When I interview for different things, they don't talk about me as a physio and technical skills. They talk to me about interpersonal skills and leadership. And that's the stuff that I learned from my dad on driving in the car. But I didn't appreciate it probably at the time and didn't really realize it was special. Yeah. It's now that I look back and realize the lessons that he's exposed me to, that I'm very fortunate to have been exposed to. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, shout out to Bruce Langford, who was part of our Coach's Desk series last year. It was a real treat for me to chat with him and get his insights. And, you know, I'm sure you know he's your dad, but he's very straightforward. he's very honest, and he gave us really amazing answers onto, you know, what he looks for when he's recruiting and, you know, playing at the next level. And hopefully, again, you know, those in our audience, you know, a lot of grassroots players, high school boys and girls, you know, if you haven't seen that, go back to our Instagram page at f.o.r.m._basketball and have a read through the other coaches ones, because if you are serious about hooping and getting to the next level, you know, it's laid out for you as a blueprint. So check that out.
I told him one piece that I was doing this, and this was one of the questions and he he said, just say that your dad's not a legendary coach. So he's very humble in his approach. And I think his biggest piece that people don't get is his ability to make connections with people, his ability to read and to optimize their performance and help them reach their potential. And I think that's a big piece that he's exposed me to, and that I try to also connect to, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's super important to be able to connect with people. I mean, especially now in the day and age where, you know, global pandemic is raging and it's still ongoing, and we all are confined to Zoom. We're able to connect with each other and read each other through the screen, and, you know, the times that we do get together face to face, if we're still able to do those things. Because I don't know about you, I kind of lost that ability being cooped up for so long. Obviously, you're with the Golden State Warriors. You mentioned it's a recent role, and I'm wondering, and I'm sure our audience is wondering, how did that happen? Like, how did that come about?
I think it's funny. I think if you look at your process through life, I think it's important that some people just think things just happen, and I don't believe that. I believe things happen for a reason. I first met Rick Celebrini up at SFU in my last year. He was working with Steve Nash. And I went over to the two of them and I introduced myself. And making that introduction was a very important step in my journey, which at that time I maybe wouldn't have known. I went up to go introduce and say, "Can I ask you a few questions?" Steve Nash stepped forward and I said, "Sorry, Steve, it's actually, I have a ton of questions that I could probably ask you." And Steve is amazing. But it's actually Rick that I want to ask some questions to. And Rick was kind of like, "What?" That's where I first met him and I first got his email. And ever since I've kept in touch. He's provided great opportunities. He's who I worked at Fortius in Burnaby that unfortunately closed down due to the pandemic about I guess 6 months ago now. I think it's just important, the steps that you take and the connections that you make and the efforts that you make to maintain those connections, for sure. So Rick was the one that called me. Fortius closed a year and a bit ago, my fault. Rick talked to me 6 months ago, and called and asked if I was interested in working in the NBA. And he knows that with two little kids that's a challenge. And so we had a discussion, and he's been extremely supportive. And yeah, I said that we need to give this a go and give it a try. So
that's amazing. And I know that we didn't, just off the cusp here, can you just really maybe touch on the part about going up to people and finding your own path and introducing yourself? And, because especially in this day and age of cell phones and social media, and a lot of our audience is obviously on social media, and they just want to text and, tap on their cell phones. Maybe just quickly touch on how important it is to, like you said, introduce yourself and build that connection that way.
Yeah, I have actively created a very wonderful group of mentors, from Rick Celebrini to Alex McKechnie to Deb Trelaw, Carol Kennedy. Those are physios in the Vancouver community. And I think it is an active role. I think you show appreciation, you show engagement. You don't show entitlement. They don't owe you anything. It's wonderful how much time they've given me. But I also really appreciate what they've done, and I let them know that. And they want to share, they want to be a part of your journey. And I still FaceTime them and connect and call. So I think having the confidence to reach out and show you're interested, but then at the same time, having the appreciation, I think is a very important key element that I try to express very consistently with all my mentors.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's amazing. And hopefully, those in our audience, take heed of that, because I find that oftentimes as a coach, and, whether it's with the academy team or with my university team, they're always on their cell phones. They're always seeing the world through the screen and not seeing the world out there and who they can meet in a day. And my dad always said, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? And building those connections. My players would be really, really, really pissed at me if I didn't ask. Shout out Ziff Grant, who is a major Golden State fan on our men's team here. What is it like seeing people like Steph Curry and Draymond, Steve Kerr, Klay Thompson on a daily basis? What's that like?
It's pretty awesome. They, when I first arrived at the Warriors, having been through different teams that I've been through, I understand what good culture is, and I recognize it. And from Bob Myers to Coach Kerr, to the players, to Klay, to Steph, to Dre, all the players, to be honest, they're great on the court, but they're just as great off the court as humans, and they exude making you feel welcome. They care about who you are. They ask about your life, and they are what helps make that a Warriors family, and they definitely make you feel welcome. They're great.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm not a really person that gets starstruck, but I just know how it would be in that environment, just seeing people you see on TV just walk by who, they talk about Steph, especially Steph goes into video game mode and just hits on just ridiculous threes. I can imagine that's just like watching that happen.
Yeah, they're process oriented, and they care about the details from interacting with humans to their process as for their job, and it's very cool to watch and to be a part of.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Just as we go along here, and you talked about your background as far as playing and getting the job with the Warriors. I mean, you're a career woman, you're a businesswoman, you're an entrepreneur. I mean, you're awesome. You're amazing. Kind of walk us through how you got involved in all those things, and kind of not any crazy detail, but kind of give us an idea of how those things happened, and what the best way to go about doing that if a lot of grassroots players don't know how to get there?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think I'm an ideas person. So, and I enjoy building things. So that is a part of my identity. I think a piece that you missed there in the description is also a mom, and a wife. And so it's hard to juggle all those pieces for sure. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges about, and for many women in the NBA, is to be able to balance those pieces. And I have some wonderful women within the NBA as well that have reached out and connected, Canadian physios that have been there to support. I have a wonderful support network in my husband and my parents, and our community, my in-laws, that are helping me be able to do what I'm doing, to be able to follow my dream. And so I think that's again about making the connections. There's a certain personality piece of building and being driven and continuing to challenge yourself and feel like it's important to be outside of your comfort zone. And kind of, I'm very goal oriented. So setting one goal and then planning to the next. But I think it's important to realize that you can't kind of achieve all of those things, especially with the family, without the support network around.
For sure.
As well as juggling the entrepreneurial stuff that Alex and I are doing. And because in your downtime, you tend to also gravitate and try to do some of that. So it's lots of balls to juggle. But I think the most important piece, and that I need to get better at doing as well, is appreciating and being able to thank and show appreciation for the people around along this journey, because I wouldn't be able to do it without them, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And and I know I'd thought about it, being a mom must be, it's tough not being around your kids on a daily basis. Like if you want to touch on that, like there's a lot of FaceTime, there's a lot of talking on the phone. Like it must be tough for you, because there's also travel with the team, you're in different time zones.
For sure.
Every week. Yeah,
it is. It's definitely there is a lot of FaceTime, and it's interesting conversations actually through FaceTime that I might not have always gotten if I was there in person. They do take the time to sit. My daughter, actually, sometimes we don't even chat. We just color together. And so it's more just the presence of being able to see. And this year's is more of a challenge just with the pandemic and COVID, and things will evolve and become easier. But they are very proud of me, and I can see that. And they, my friends that are back, and they send me videos of the kids and everything as well. And they talk about how proud the kids are when they're talking about me. So that's cool. And so I just hope in this journey as well is that they do see that it's important to go after your dreams, and that they do see that you do need to actively do that. And we've been able to talk about lots of different lessons along the way. And I am getting exposed to new lessons here and growing. And so I only hope that I can help share as a mom and help teach them some of the lessons that I'm learning as well, because there's lots of growth happening, me being in a new environment as well.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And, that I can't imagine how difficult that must be. You mentioned about, obviously, director of sports science with the Raptors, Alex McKechnie. How did that mentorship and friendship formulate? I mean, I see him on TV, watch the Raptors games, and I know some folks that work with the Raptors and stuff, and they mentioned him, and he seems like a straight shooter, stand-up guy. He always seems like he's chill on the bench. How did that mentorship and friendship come about?
Again, that happened with going up and introducing myself. So it was at Fortius, and Alex is also very good at introducing himself and reaching out. And that's one lesson I'm learning from him here, is to make an effort to also do that, because he was very approachable. And so I want in any situation that anyone that has questions for me or anything, that they do feel like I am approachable. And because I need to do what Alex has done for me, for other people, if it's needed. But he is very approachable. He is very generous with his time and sharing of information. Kind of 2.5 years ago, we would kind of meet and connect, and we did a coach's clinic. I, having been a player, a coach, and then a physio, I think that brings a unique lens and perspective to basketball and to working with athletes on movement. And so I wanted to do a coaching clinic where I connected kind of the clinic and the coach. And I was working on that at Fortius one day, and he came up and he's like, "What are you working on?" And I told him about it, and he was like, "I'd help you with that." And in my mind, I was like, fantastic. I am very persistent. And so over time it evolved, and he taught me so much, and helped build that presentation that we did together. And he loved it. I could see how passionate he was, with working with the athletes and the coaches. And that's where I kind of knew that, we'd have a good connection. And so from there, we worked to build Core Aim, which is, we're looking to build a community around youth athletes, and helping to target that cohort and help support them, connecting the clinic and the court. And there's a basketball piece, but it's obviously more than just basketball. It's all sports encompassing. So we have some pieces that we're working on, that we've developed around some courses, and some different screens and some things. But we're waiting to kind of release that. So,
and I'm sure it's probably a secret. Is there more that can be told about that, or we have to wait? We have to wait into the 2022 and see.
Yeah, 2022 would be a good time to be able to talk more about it, at some point.
Amazing. All right, so there you have it, folks. Tune back in. Big things coming. I know for us, I know we didn't talk about this, but we're here at Form. We're an academy, so we're not just about the basketball piece. We're about the academic piece, and we're also about the sports science piece, which your good friend, Dr. Darrell Bernard, is our director of sports science here at Form. You mentioned about Core Aim and connecting the athletes from the clinic side to the court side, and we have obviously the division of sports science. For those that don't really know, maybe quickly touch on what sports science is and why that's important in the realm of the space of sport or basketball.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and I think that people, sport is evolving, and I think people are looking at more and more ways to optimize the athlete, and so I think that encompasses a lot of different roles and a lot of different people that are involved, from nutrition to sleep to how you prepare for a game, and helping athletes where you can develop a process and develop a mindfulness to that process. And whether it's how we move, whether it's how you prepare for a game and how you get your body ready. And that is over the course of a week. It's not just 4 hours before. So sports science can, and people who are involved in that can help athletes to develop their own systems that work for them and their bodies. Every athlete's different. So it's not a cookie cutter approach in any way. But there's a psychological piece, there's the physiological piece, and bringing all of those pieces together to help an athlete perform at their best is what we try to do with sports science. Being able to come down to analytics and seeing which direction they like to move best into shots. It's a very big world that you can connect, and that is connecting and interrelating. But I would say from down at a grassroots level, even just, for example, like with what we're doing with Core Aim and bringing athletes aware of what's happening with them as a growing athlete, and empowering the athletes themselves with knowledge that can help them develop a process that works for them, I think is one that can be used at all different levels, from NBA to high school, I think is important.
Yeah. And that's, my background's in medicine. So when we launched Form back in 2017, I said to Dr. D, said, Darrell, let's make sure we have this sports science component. He was all over it. And, for us, we look at, the joint movement, the range of motion, the heel to toe strike, all those things that, athletes, especially the grassroots level, they take for granted. They don't ice after, they don't do all those things. And we at the university level with my guys, they're always constantly doing therapy. They're doing warm up, cool down, resistance bands, all those things that, again, grassroots level players don't, especially in high school and elementary school, they don't want to do that. There's, what am I going to do this for? And you say, no, this is going to be good for you and it's going to increase your career or have that longevity that you're hopefully going to have. Danny, we appreciate you being, on this with us and just, again, giving insight to our audience about, yourself and the basketball world. Obviously, Fireside Chats is very informal. It's, as if we're having a coffee in the morning and just sitting down beside a fireplace. For someone like you who has, done amazing things, accomplished amazing things, and is going to accomplish even more. For our audience, boys and girls, especially the young females that are watching this or are going to tell their friends about this, what piece of advice or multiple advices that you would have for them in how best to chase their dreams and empower themselves as young women?
A quote that I like is, and that we use at SFU a lot, and we used before nationals, and it's confidence is not a right, confidence is earned. So saying that piece, I think it's important to be confident, to go have conversations, to put yourself out there, to introduce yourself, because you don't know where that connection is necessarily going to lead you to. But at the same time, I think there's the behind the scenes work that you need to do to have the right to go be confident to go do that. And so for me, it's preparing for whatever, whether it's an event or an interview or a discussion with somebody, and an exam, whatever that may be, on the court, off the court. You need to put in the work and the time to then, when it comes to time, to be able to step up to that opportunity, and feel confident within that opportunity. So I think it is important to make connections, like you said, in this generation, if it is kind of screens, and it's important to see the world, look around, who's at your game, who's coming to watch you. Go thank them after the game for coming. I used to thank every coach after a game for coming. Thank your parents for driving you. We always used to do that as well. And I'm teaching my kids that they go up and they thank their grandparents for coming to watch them and support. And so I think that's kind of where it can start often, is who's coming. If you're looking to go play at a university, go talk to the coach, go engage with them. And it's on you a little bit. I think in some rules, they can't even come up and talk to you. So you need to go talk to them. You're allowed to go talk to them. So yeah, I'd say believe in yourself and do the work. And so that you're ready for the opportunities when they do arise. And I'm not a believer that things don't happen for a reason. I believe that things do happen for a reason, and with time, you'll find out whatever piece of the puzzle that happened earlier and how that lined up for later. So yeah, even if you don't understand it along the way.
Experience piece, that's important. Well, folks, there you have it. I couldn't have said it better myself. Danielle Langford of the Golden State Warriors, entrepreneur, mom, wife, businesswoman, extraordinaire. Who's going to call it woman extraordinaire? No, Danny, thank you for being a part of this. It's our hope that those who are watching will not only take heed of your words and really try to buy in for themselves, but they too will be inspired and maybe reach out. I'm sure you have Instagram, maybe just for our listeners and for our people who are watching, what is your Instagram, if they're able to follow you and kind of track your journey as well too through this awesome process with the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to chat. Like you said, if anyone wants to reach out and whatnot, I'm more than happy to. So Instagram is at Danny, at Danny.hoopconnections. And more than happy to answer questions and help people along the process if it's going to school internationally or any questions that they have. I'm more than happy to help.
Awesome. Well, we thank you. It looks like it's sunny in Philly.
It is. It's a nice day.
Enjoy Philly, and good luck for the rest of the road trip. From all of us here at Form, we want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I know again Ziff is going to be upset with me if I don't say it. Vote Steph Curry.
I will pass on the message. Thank you very much for having me. It's been great to chat, and you're doing great things. And so yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.